Representative Magee, is that your question? You're down there? Okay. Representative Magee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the stack of public comments that we've gotten about your company. In my 5 years, I've never seen anything like that. And we've probably only had 7 days for them to even get this to us. Usually we have much more of a time period to obtain these kind of things. I'm going to ask you, do you think they're positive comments?
I would say it's probably not often that consumers proactively post good news about their utilities at any level.
So you're going to agree that they're not positive?
Again, I would say that most people don't report good news to any agencies.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. I think when you are in an emergency situation and you help people and you communicate with them, they're very appreciative. Even government. I think government probably has a little bit harder time than y'all do in the public PR space. But in emergencies, when we're bringing water to people and we're doing our jobs, they seem to say really good things about us. And they're not saying good things about you. I can make the short version of this. You're not doing a good job. I don't know how else you can take it. And look, I think one of the things I think is concerning is this. I think everybody in Louisiana understands to a certain degree that you have logistical problems and logistical issues that you're working through. I don't think they are completely unreasonable in that. I think part of the problem is the customer service side is that you're not listening to them, you're not communicating to them, and you're basically not helping them at all. Do you want to address that part of it?
Well, I'm sorry, Representative, I think it's important to recognize one factor here, and that is that we have made efforts to improve in this area. I can tell you the company they've almost experienced a double whammy in a sense here. You just had 6 to 8 weeks ago Tropical Storm Isaias in the mid-Atlantic and northeastern regions of our country, which impacted hundreds of thousands of subscribers who lost their service. That combined with this leads to plenty of people an unbelievable number of people calling in to express their concerns with their service connectivity, their outages, in addition to just the run-of-the-mill throughout the other 21 states we serve, just issues, complaints, purchasing, whatever it might be that they come in to want to contact the call center for. So I can tell you we are looking at other platforms and we're investing in. I think the company has set aside millions of dollars in investments to go with platforms, whether it be an Apple type of platform to enable consumers to contact us that way. I know a younger generation, I wouldn't put myself quite in that because I still prefer to talk to a phone agent, but you'll find a lot of people like to do the chat rooms. They like to have their things answered by email, their inquiries by email. And whereas our elderly customers...
I think your customers would accept a carrier pigeon at this point.
I think, but yes, I can only tell you that we're very much aware of the need to continue to improve in this, and it's very much a focus of the company at this point.
Let me ask you this. Whenever there's a storm, and I live on the coast, thankfully I'm not one of your customers, but I live on the coast and in southeast Louisiana, and we deal with storms a lot. It's pretty much a way of business. It's a way of life for us. We probably deal with more storms than almost anybody. And since I've been elected, every time there's a storm, I have a service rep from Entergy, everybody else contact me before the storm gets there to give me their information so that I can know who to contact after the storm if there was problems. Who with your company did that?
Representative, in this case, and I also want to add this in response to what the chairman had mentioned. We began on August the 21st and contacted, if you are a legislator in our footprint or a mayor in our footprint or any federal officials in our footprint, which is 3 members of Congress and, of course, the 2 U.S. senators, Public Service Commission staff for those 3 districts in which our footprint lies. On August the 21st, we sent out an initial email to every one of these individuals to the email address I'm sure that they probably care the most about, and that's the one they provide the public on their website. I'm sure those are very important addresses that you guys monitor closely to hear from your constituents. Assuming that was going to be the best way to get in contact with you, we sent emails from August the 21st. 3 days later, we responded with another set of emails, which was to provide safety pointers that you could pass along to your constituents. In addition, the following day we came with emails which would have explained emergency operation management system questions, as well as every one of those emails had the numbers of 3 Suddenlink contacts: phone, email, text us. Now,
No, but you're going off on a tangent. I'm going to cut you off a little bit. I don't mean to be disrespectful. Who was the person as a governmental liaison? Back on. Who is the governmental contact person that is responsible for contacting legislators or local officials?
that was myself and Johnny Moyer, who's the Director of Government Affairs for this area. We're both contacted, and to this day still remain text. I want to point out one of your colleagues certainly took advantage of the initial email, Mr. Representative Chuck Owen, who has become a very frequent texter. He has communicated that information that we've given him to his constituents, and I think Mr. Owen would acknowledge that we have been using text, realizing that his service may be down at times, to communicate.
So other than the emails, though, did you contact anybody?
Absolutely. The emails, phone calls, text.
So you called all the legislators in your district?
No, sir, we did not call them, no.
Okay. Did they have your cell phone number or Johnny's cell phone number before the storm, or did they get that?
If they checked their emails, any of the 5 emails we would have sent out starting
Did they know you before this all happened?
No, sir, I don't believe they did.
Did they know Mr. What's his name, Johnny Mayers?
Moyer.
Moyer, I'm sorry.
Several of them were very active in the Louisiana Cable Television Association as members. That's our primary means of communication with legislators.
Okay, so somebody else is responsible. So, getting back to that, you didn't have anybody that was a familiar face. You said you cover 18 states. Is that correct?
Yes. Now,
and then you said your service footprint is 21 states. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So you cover all but 3 states. What is Mr. Moyer's territory?
Mr. Moyer focuses on Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas.
3 states.
Tri-states here, yes.
Does any state have their own governmental liaisons person?
No, sir, but what we do, we participate in every association. In the West, in our Western footprint, there's instances where we'll have consultants at the state level. There's instances where we will have law firms that we retain that have the relationships with legislators, and that we typically remain on top of things by working with them.
Do you want to be regulated by the PSC?
No, sir, I don't think that's. I personally don't ever see how more government regulation is the answer to a free market.
Who are your competitors in Southwest Louisiana?
In Southwest Louisiana, I would have to yield. Robbie, are you aware of that question? I mean, I know through the association you have obviously other active members like Charter and Cox. I'm not.
Because to me, it looks like this. You say you don't want to be regulated, which I understand. I'm not advocating for that. But you basically have 2 models in the world. Is when you're the only provider, you get regulated because you have a monopoly and there's no competition. I ask you who your competitors are, and you don't even tell me who they are. So I think part of the reason why you're losing the public service, the public relations battle, is because you're not doing a good job of it. And I think part of the reason why is because you don't have enough competition to really drive it where people feel like they have a choice. I mean, who are your competitors? I mean, I'm kind of shocked that you don't know who your competitors are. I mean, I heard active in the association. That's not a competitor.
Again, Representative, I just indicated that Cox and Charter were also companies that.
You did, but you also said I need to talk to the guy next to me.
No, I was just making sure that there's not a smaller cable provider. I mean, again, Robbie is very familiar with Louisiana in that sense, and I was just indicating that there may be a smaller provider out there. Obviously, I don't know every provider in Louisiana.
I don't know of areas that we're actually overbuilt from another cable provider, but we have AT&T as a competitor. There are wireless services. It kind of depends on what service you're speaking of about a competitor. Video service, obviously, there are Dish and Direct. There are wireless data services that compete against us. There are other options out there. I don't know. I can't name market by market who those are specifically, but we do have competition across the footprint at different levels.
And let me back this up for a second. You say call center. Are you using the same normal call center that you do when there is no storm right now? Is that who's providing the response?
I believe that is correct. That we have call centers in Lubbock, Texas, Tyler, Texas, North Carolina, and in the Northeast that are answering and addressing consumer complaints during this time.
So Lubbock would be our closest call center to Louisiana?
No, sir. Tyler's
Tyler.
far closer.
Okay.
East Texas.
So is there any way for you to bring a call center into Louisiana in a mobile unit?
That is actually, as the chairman indicated, the CEO is going to be walking through downtown Lake Charles next week with him, I assume, and I think that would be a good discussion to have. I mean, certainly the company, we have an emergency response plan, and if there's ways we can augment what we've got there, I'm sure they'd be very interested in looking at that.
So the answer is no.
I'm sorry, the question was, would we be willing?
No, I said, yeah, but I mean,
And
you haven't done it.
And I did
And
not.
by the time you do that, I mean, hopefully you'll fix these problems. I mean,
But again, Representative, I did not say we would not be willing, and that was your question.
there's no plans at this time.
Well, of course there's plans. I mean, one thing about an emergency response plan, if it's anything, there's variables.
Let me cut it to the quick. Is there a plan right now to bring a mobile team into Louisiana to answer customer complaints?
I would imagine at some level that's being discussed.
But is it a plan right now?
Again, a lot of plans are being discussed at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could talk about plans to build $1 billion house. I don't have that kind of money. That's not really relevant. What I want to know is there a concrete plan to bring within the next few weeks, preferably next couple of days, a communication center to Louisiana on the ground?
I feel like that's very much in discussion.
I don't want what you feel like. I want to know, is there? There's a difference.
Well, sir, again, I can't tell you that there's not. I mean,
Then if you can't tell us, who can?
Again, we'll have senior leadership.
Are you not senior leadership? You cover 18 states as a Governmental Affairs Association. If you're not senior leadership, where is he?
He's going to be here next week.
Why is he here now? Is there another storm pressing that keeps him from? Is there something more important going on right now?
Well, no, sir, but there is a more pressing thing. Not more pressing, certainly. That would be the wrong phrasing. But there is an issue with COVID where New Yorkers have to, if they travel down here, and the chairman's aware of this from the conversation this morning. If any of our New York crew come down here, they have to quarantine for 14 days upon returning to New York because Governor Cuomo has established Louisiana as one of those states that has a high level right now. If I could just continue real briefly, I'll point out that you got to also keep in mind these folks in New York have been severely impacted. They've lived the nightmare that has been COVID very much. So if that factors a little bit into their thinking on when can I travel to Louisiana or am I going to have to quarantine upon return?
So has the CEO not left New York in the last 6 months?
I'm not aware of Mr. Goei's travel schedule.
Has he left in the last 1 month?
I'll tell you the truth. Every time I've seen him, he's been on the laptop in his kitchen doing calls every day.
That's not what I asked. I asked, has the CEO traveled in the last month?
I'm not sure of that. It's entirely possible.
Did y'all talk before y'all came here today?
With the CEO?
Yes.
Yes, sir. There has been multiple discussions.
With you?
With me, with plenty of other
But
senior.
when you say multiple discussions, was that this morning, yesterday, last week?
The last 3 weeks related to Louisiana.
Did you talk to him yesterday?
He was on calls yesterday. That's correct.
But was he talking to you yesterday? I'm not asking what his schedule was.
Again, Representative, I can tell you I have not spoken with him yesterday, no.
I asked you that question 10 minutes ago, and it took me 5 questions to get to whether you talked to him recently. When's the last time you talked to your CEO?
The last time I've talked to him was on a call earlier, probably earlier last week.
Last week. And was he aware you were coming here today?
He is very much aware, yes, sir.
Did y'all discuss what information you would have to tell us about your plans, your ideas, your future thoughts, hopes, dreams, aspirations, however you want me to phrase it, about how you're going to address the poor customer service in Louisiana?
I can't express enough just how much we have discussed, and as I told you earlier, we're investing in that very much.
I'm talking about the last time you had a conversation with your CEO. Did this conversation take place?
The last time I had a conversation with the CEO would have been to discuss our approach here.
I got an idea. Why don't you give everybody, the public, your CEO's email, since that's the way he works from his laptop when he talks to you, and that way I could send him, we can start forwarding all of this, since he can't come because he can't travel right now.
I certainly want to point out that the CEO has believe me, it's not just a direct link from me to the CEO. I mean, we're a relatively flat organization, but what we have executive vice presidents who work in our government affairs operation. You have senior vice presidents who work in there. They communicate with Mr. Goei far more than I do, obviously, and I obviously communicate with them. You probably wouldn't believe the number of times a day.
So you're telling me they sent me the fourth level person in the company to address what is the biggest crisis probably in the company right now?
Well, we've sent you Robbie.Lee here next to me, who is probably the most familiar with this region.
I didn't say familiar. I'm talking about level of authority to actually get something done.
And again, that's why I'm excited that he's coming here next week.
I'm not excited. Yes, thank you. He knew about this today. He's going to have to quarantine in New York for 2 weeks, whether he comes next week or today. You'll accept that, right?
I do. That he's going to have to quarantine? I mean,
so the whole quarantine thing was a discussion about nothing. It was a way of you trying to gender sympathy for why he's not here, why he's been absent from Louisiana, because he's coming, and when he goes back to New York, he's still going to have to quarantine for 2 weeks. Doesn't change anything, right? I mean, I'm finding your answers, I'll be honest with you. I can understand why your customers are upset with you, because I'm trying to get basic information from you, like what color's the sky, and I'm getting, well, you know, if you look at the rays, it's actually not blue, and blah, 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 blah. That's the kind of responses we're getting from you. If you're giving it to us now, and you're frustrating me, I can only imagine what your customers must feel like when they are sweaty, hot, tired, chafed, thirsty, kids not in school. And they got to deal with somebody who will not give them a straight answer on any question they ask. I'm telling you right now, in the history of this legislature that I've been a part of, never have I seen anything like that in 7 days.
That's 7 days worth of complaints, sir?
That's from when we noticed that we had public comment. 4 days. Sorry.
4 days, okay.
I've never. And look, we have some controversial stuff that people get really upset about in Louisiana.
Have those been passed on to Suddenlink to be addressed?
This is their public comment to us about how terrible of a job you're doing. It's a book.
If you'll let us know if you will provide us with copies of that, we'll be glad to reach out to those customers. I mean, that's what we have.
The story is that they've tried to talk to you. That's what the story is, and they're not getting anywhere. I think you should give us your CEO's email address, and then we can forward all of these to him, since he won't come, or he might have to quarantine, or there's something else, and he can talk about all these future plans that may have. Actually, it's not even all of them. I have a couple of them that fell. All these future plans that are in the discussion. Here's some more of them. Here's some more of them. Here's some more of them. And he could maybe start emailing people back.
He, to my understanding, has been, you could not pay closer attention to this as he has. I mean, we've had a whole team. Our days have consisted of 7:30 in the morning to at least 10 at night for the last 21 days. I
have no doubt that the people on the ground are as working as hard as they possibly can to do their jobs. There's nobody who for a second thinks otherwise. What we think, though, is that the corporate people at the top are doing a really bad job. And I'll be telling you something else. A common complaint I've heard is that they didn't think you did a good job with customer service before the storm. And that's probably why they're so upset, because they're used to dealing with crappy customer service that's only been worsened by the storm.
I will. Again, we're investing in the resources and making the customer care experience significantly better, and I think.
But how? You've not provided this committee in the 30 minutes I've taken too long to provide one thing other than it's part of a ephemeral discussion that's happening at the top of the corporate ladder that you, as the senior 18-state governmental affairs person, has no idea, but it feels very certain that it is happening.
Well, again, Representative, I did mention the various platforms from Apple and the chat rooms and the preferred methods of communications for a number of our customers. The purposes of that is to get the number of people who call in for standard calls to our customer service team, or to call in on complaints from other states. Hopefully those can be addressed in other platforms, a quicker do-it-yourself type of customer service experience. We're hopeful now. Hopefully we won't always have two natural disasters we're recovering from at once, Isaias and Laura, but it's certainly going to take the number of people who are using it right now. We think this is going to take them into other options, and it'll free up more agents.
I'm only going to entertain this because you keep bringing it up like it means something. This other storm, which one was that one?
I'm sorry, Isaias.
Isaias. Where's that one affecting your customer base?
That's that is our tri-states region in New York, and again, I don't cover those states, but I'm trying to give you a rough estimate of the numbers. I believe you're talking 2 to 3 million subscribers in the tri-states region there.
What region is that?
Tri-states, that's New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut.
So there's a storm in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut that had the same sort of impact as Laura.
It's a very densely populated area, yes, sir.
It had the same impact. Is what you're telling me.
Well, no, as I indicated, it's a tropical storm. It's not a Category 4 hurricane by any stretch.
Okay. So what resources have you provided to the tri-state area?
If it's okay, I'd like you to discuss that with Mr. Goei or our Vice President for Operations on Monday, Mike Alexander, who will be coming down.
We're having the committee meeting here today, and they sent you to answer these questions.
I just don't have that information of what we've provided.
What information do you have today that makes people on this committee feel better about the response that's going to happen other than somebody's coming next week?
Well, as we've said and Robbie said in the statement, we're increasing that number. You're going to see from 350 right now to 380 right now in Calcasieu Parish. You're going to have 450 and more. We have crews standing by in any number of states north of Louisiana here that we're going to send in. I realize people want to see the more people there on the ground here, and we do too. Our employees and contractors who are doing this could certainly stand the relief, but we have plans to get them here. They're going to be coming in, and I know that that's what the chairman and Mr. Goei discussed earlier today.
Well, I'm going to stop asking questions because I do not want to monopolize more time than I already have. I will leave you with it. I don't think you were very informative. I don't think you've shown any kind of real concern for what is an obvious problem. And I am very disappointed, to be honest with you, that we did not get more information, that you didn't come here with more ability and authority to talk about things other than to let this committee know that it's coming at a later date. And I think that's very disappointing, and I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Magee. And Mr. Ayers, we're going to provide you by email this list of responses that have come in. I have to agree with Representative Magee. In all my years, 21 years of being in the legislature, I've never seen anything like this. This is not just formal complaints against your company. These are responses. We allowed the publicly to participate in this meeting by email because of COVID. Y'all are very lucky that this 116 people didn't show up at this Capitol today. We'd be here till tomorrow morning. But we're going to provide you with this. I know that the Public Service Commission, I'm going to call Mr. Brandon Fry up here in just a few minutes and a little later, but they've gotten a record number of complaints also at the Public Service Commission, even though they don't regulate you. And I would want those numbers.
Chairman, I would add, we've actually, and we do get complaints from the Public Service Commission, and with Commissioner Francis and Commissioner Green and Commissioner Campbell, we've remained in contact with them throughout. In fact, we've had conversations from their, I apologize if I don't know the name of the title, but whoever it's not a chief of staff, but they call them something else. They're their top aide, for lack of a better way of putting it, and kept them posted. I mean, we get those complaints, and we actively try to resolve those as quickly as possible.
Okay. Mr. Lee, I do owe you somewhat of an apology. I said that y'all had no communication. We were made aware of that email that was mentioned earlier. I think most of us from our delegation found that email in our junk box. I absolutely didn't have time to go through my junk mail looking for emails after the storm hit. But the point of the matter is, after the storm hit, not one link of communication from anybody from Suddenlink to our local officials. We were meeting on a daily basis. Police jury office in Calcasieu Parish. They had every opportunity to participate in those meetings, had every opportunity to communicate, no communication, and that's a fact.